The Aral Sea stretched across Central Asia, between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, covering over 26,000 square miles. It supported a booming fishing industry, bustling port towns, and a unique ecosystem with more than 1,000 islands. For generations, it was a lifeline. Today, it's mostly desert. What happened to the Aral Sea is not a mystery. It's a man-made ecological collapse, and one of the most dramatic environmental disasters in modern history. In the 1960s, the Soviet Union launched an ambitious campaign to turn Central Asia into a cotton powerhouse. But growing cotton in a desert climate requires enormous amounts of water. The Soviets began diverting the two rivers that fed the Aral, the Amu Darya and the Sir Darya, using a vast network of canals and dams to irrigate fields across four republics. Within a few decades, the consequences were undeniable. The sea began shrinking, and fast. By the 1980s, the shoreline had retreated dozens of kilometers. By the 2000s, the eastern basin had nearly disappeared. And by 2014, satellite images confirmed what scientists had feared. For the first time in recorded history, the entire eastern Aral Sea had completely dried up. If you grew up near the Aral Sea, you didn't need a map to know it was vanishing. You saw it in the cracked harbor walls, where boats once bobbed with the tide and now sat in sand like discarded toys. You saw it in your father's hands, once calloused from untangling nets, now idle and clean. Children used to race along the docks, chasing gulls and sneaking bites of sun-dried fish. By the 1990s, the fish were gone and the gulls followed. The jobs followed after that. Families packed up and left. Those who stayed learned to live with coughing fits, burning eyes, and dust storms that coated their homes in white residue. Salt, fertilizer, and pesticides lifted straight from the exposed seabed. There was no one single moment of collapse, no explosion, just a slow, visible unraveling of everything that held these towns together. All for cotton, grown hundreds of miles away, in fields most of them would never see. Soviet officials called it white gold, cotton that promised prosperity and prestige. But the math was flawed from the start. The rivers weren't infinite, and the desert wasn't made for farming. Most of the canals they dug leaked. Still on paper, it looked like progress. Central Asian republics like Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan were promised modernization, economic growth, and a central role in Soviet industrial success. Cotton became their main export and also their main identity. Output mattered more than sustainability. Whether leaders believed that the Aral could truly disappear is still debated. Some likely thought the sea was too big to fail. Others understood the risks and chose to ignore them. Either way, quotas ruled everything. Engineers carved more than 20,000 miles of canals, many unlined, losing enormous amounts of water to evaporation and seepage. By the 1980s, as much as 70% of the diverted water never reached the fields. As the water retreated, it exposed a vast seabed laced with salt, heavy metals, pesticides, and fertilizer runoff, chemical ghosts of decades-old Soviet agriculture. Winds carried that dust across the region, and villages miles away saw spikes in respiratory illnesses, liver disease, birth defects, anemia, and cancer. Crops failed. Even rain carried traces of salt. There's no sugarcoating it. The Aral Sea wasn't just environmental, it was human, political, and entirely avoidable. A decision made in Moscow to grow cotton for export wiped out a regional economy, poisoned communities, and reshaped the climate of an entire region. Without the sea to regulate temperatures, summers grew hotter, winters grew colder, and extremes became the norm. For decades, no one stepped in. The Soviet Union was too invested to admit failure. After its collapse in 1991, newly independent states were left with the aftermath, but not the resources to fix it. There was one partial exception. In the early 2000s, Kazakhstan, with support from the World Bank, built the Aral Dam, separating the North Aral Sea from the rest. It worked. Water levels rose, fish returned, and a small fishing industry restarted. It wasn't restoration, but it was proof that some recovery was possible. The South Aral never followed. Uzbekistan, still relying on cotton exports, continued aggressive irrigation. Climate change made everything harder. More droughts, less snowmelt, more pressure on the rivers that once sustained the sea. Now a new question looms. Who gets the water? The Amu Darya and the Sir Darya cross borders, feed millions, and support entire economies. Without cooperation and restraint, they risk becoming flashpoints. Because the Aral Sea didn't disappear by accident. It vanished because short-term gain was prioritized over long-term survival. And in a warming world, that warning grows louder every single day. At Forevergreen, we tell these stories not to dwell in sadness, but because sadness often carries the truth. The collapse of the Aral Sea isn't just a tragedy. It's a case study in how decisions ripple across land, across generations, across borders. Silence is a luxury we can't afford.